All right, guys, so we're going to take a look at notes 311 to 318. You already have this PowerPoint printed out for you in your 3.1 section. So you have a kind of a light purple cover page, and you have all of these notes already. What I would encourage you to do is to listen along, pause where you need to, and add in information that you think will help, okay? So the reason that we're doing these notes kind of on your own is because for the most part, you've learned bits of this already and it's not very technical. So we're going to start with list macro and micronutrients. Okay, so right here we've got the word list. When we say macro and micro, we're not necessarily talking about size, we're talking about amounts. So macronutrients are the nutrients you need a lot of because they provide energy for you to do your bodily functions. So our four macronutrients are carbs, proteins, lipids, which are fats, and water. So as we move on to micronutrients, micro, again, just means smaller amounts, okay? We need these to make tissues and do other smaller things in the body, and that's like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So as we move on to 3.2, when it says outline the functions of micro and macronutrients, when we talk about the function, what we mean is what do they do in the body? So for carbohydrates, they provide our main source of fuel, okay? So this is where we get most of our energy from, our main source of fuel. We can also store that energy, and we can use it to, prevent ketosis, basically low blood sugar, that sort of thing. And there's examples of carbohydrates listed down there. Okay. For proteins do pretty much everything in the body. Carbs give us our energy. Proteins do, I feel like, everything else. So muscles, so the structure of your body, hormones and things in the blood that are transported. Protection, a lot of your white blood cells and immune system is used. Growth and repair of muscles and tissues. When we talk about fuel for the body, this is not good, okay? If you begin using muscle as fuel, that can be damaging in the long term, okay? So you need to have carbohydrates in order to survive. Think about it. Your heart is a muscle. If you begin breaking down muscle tissue to use as fuel because your body is starving, that will lead to heart failure and that sort of thing. Most of the people who pass away from anorexia or bulimia die because of heart failure, because their body has been breaking apart that heart muscle along with all the other muscles to use for fuel. So next, let's talk lipids or fats. This is our second source of energy. Okay, carbs are first, lipids are second. And basically this is stored energy. We can also, so when you think about like fat, the reason that you get fat accumulating on your body is you're storing more energy than you're burning. But your body thinks, oh, I'm eating all of this, I must need it. So it stores it as fat. That's why we call it kind of a backup energy source. Also, it'll help you stay warm and protect organs. So it allows for some cushion and movement around those organs. And finally, water. Water is kind of the basis of life. About 70% of your body is made up of water. So it allows us to do all of these chemical reactions. It'll help us maintain temperature. It will help us with excretion, dehydration, those sorts of things. So this is a lot. What I would kind of encourage you to do is to pick out a few in each of these categories. So maybe know 2 things that carbs do, 2 things that lipids, 2 things that proteins. So that way you have kind of a basis of understanding if IB were to ask you, outline the function of lipids. You have a couple of those in your mind. All right, so let's move on to our micronutrients. Your micronutrients, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. I have not ever seen IB ask a specific question like, list the 6 functions of minerals. What they do want you to know is that fiber, vitamins, and minerals all support a healthy life. Oh, goodness. All support a healthy lifestyle. Okay. So it can help avoid constipation. It can help release energy, increase your immune system. Again, more immune system, metabolism. I don't think that they're going to ever ask you to list these. I think that they're going to ask you to know that fiber, vitamins, and minerals are micronutrients that support overall body health. All right. So 313 and 314 appear together. It wants you to state the chemical composition and identify a diagram. So notice you won't have to draw it. So the chemical composition is right here, okay? The diagram is obviously this other one. The way that you know it's a carbohydrate is it's ring-shaped. Ring-shaped things are almost always carbohydrates. So our chemical formula, C6H12O6, okay? We've got our carbon, our hydrogen, and our oxygen in that 1:2:1 ratio. So if we talked about something that was C12H24O12, you know it's a carbohydrate because it has C, H, and O in that 1:2:1 ratio. Okay, so 315, explain how glucose molecules can combine to form disaccharides and polysaccharides. So what we're talking about is taking individual rings like we saw on the last page and linking them together. Okay. The way that we do that is by something called a condensation reaction. We also hear it called dehydration synthesis. And basically what we're doing is we're going to remove a water to join two things together. So let me change colors here. So here, let's say I've got one glucose. Here I've got another glucose. When I combine them together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a water molecule, and that will link these together. And you might be thinking, okay, where am I getting this water from? I'm going to go back to the previous slide. Notice here, we've got an H and an OH. What we're going to do is we're going to take the H from here and the OH from the next molecule, combine them, and move them away, all right? HOH is H2O. So we're going to take the H and the OH, pull them out, and that's going to create a bond right here. So let me go back. So we do this multiple times to create a polysaccharide. So this prefix di means two. The prefix poly means many. So whether we do it once to put two things together, or we link a lot together in a polysaccharide, we're going to do the same process. We're going to do dehydration synthesis where we remove a water to combine these molecules together. All right, so 316 wants you to state the composition of a triglycerol. You might have heard it as a triglyceride, but here's what we're looking at. We've got these two things. This is a glycerol molecule. Okay, this is a fatty acid. And if you notice, we've got the prefix tri down here. Tri is 3, like a tricycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one glycerol and 3 fatty acids and combine them to make a triglyceride. Okay. And we're going to do it a very similar way. This information down here is just basically some backup, okay? When it asks you to state the composition, what it's looking for is one glycerol and 3 fatty acids that combine to make a triglyceride. And we're going to do something similar up here. We're going to take this molecule along with this one and pull it out, and that creates these bonds here. You don't necessarily need to know what all of those things are. You just need to know 1 glycerol, 3 fatty acids makes a triglyceride. Okay. So our next learning target, distinguish between saturated and unsaturated. The key here is talking about double bonds. Saturated have no double bonds, so they're kind of in a straight line. They're going to be solid at room temperature, and they're usually from animal products, so like butter, bacon grease, those sorts of things. Those are saturated fatty acids, no double bonds. Unsaturated means it has 1 or more double bonds, okay? So that's here, okay? They're liquid at room temperature instead of solid, and they're usually from plant products, so olive oil, vegetable oil. Obviously, our saturated fats are a little bit more unhealthy. Our unsaturated fats are healthier. And again, when we're talking about cholesterol and clogged arteries and that sort of thing, we'll get into more of that later in the next unit, okay? But for right now, you just need to be able to tell the difference between a saturated and unsaturated fatty acid. And our final slide here is 318. State the chemical composition of a protein, okay? Protein have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. There's no specific ratio, and it could take on a ton of different shapes. So just when it says state the composition, you need to know these 4 molecules. All right, guys, and that is it for these first few learning targets.